So, I guess I'll just throw this out here because I don't really know who else to talk to right now. Life used to feel easy for me. I had a routine, a job I didn't hate, and a girlfriend who I thought actually had my back. Nothing fancy, nothing exciting, but you know that kind of calm where you almost start believing life is predictable? That was me. I was comfortable. But here's the thing I learned. Easy life can flip into total disaster in a single day. You don't see it coming. One morning you wake up thinking about what to eat for breakfast, and by the evening you're staring at your ceiling, wondering how everything fell apart. The first crack in my easy life came on a Wednesday. I still remember the exact shirt I was wearing, the blue one with a tiny coffee stain that I always pretended no one noticed. That morning, I left for work like normal. My girlfriend kissed me goodbye, said she'd probably go for a walk later. Seemed harmless, right? But it was that walk that started the unraveling of everything. At the time, though, I didn't know any of this. I was still in that bubble, thinking my life was simple, steady, easy. I had no idea betrayal was already walking into my world while I was just typing emails at the office. Around lunchtime that same Wednesday, something strange happened. My coworker, Ben, came over to my desk with this awkward look on his face. He's not the type to gossip, but he goes, "Hey, man, isn't that your girlfriend?" I look at his phone, and there's a photo on Facebook. My girlfriend, in the park, holding hands with some guy I'd never seen before. Not just a casual hold either, fingers interlaced, the kind of hold that says this isn't just a friend. At first, I laughed it off. I told Ben, "Nah, must be her cousin or something." But my stomach didn't believe my mouth. It twisted into a knot so tight I could barely swallow. I tried to keep working, but every click of my mouse felt fake. I just kept staring at the photo. The guy looked too comfortable, and she looked happy. Not the fake smile she gave for photos, but a real, carefree smile. The kind of smile I hadn't seen from her in a while. I sat there, torn between two voices in my head. One said, "Relax, you're overthinking." The other whispered, "This is the beginning of the end." By 5 p.m., I wasn't just leaving work. I was marching straight toward the truth, whether I was ready for it or not. When I got home that evening, I tried to act normal. I didn't storm in, I didn't slam the door, nothing like that. I just wanted to see. Sometimes, silence tells you more than shouting ever could. She was on the couch, scrolling through her phone. She looked up, smiled, and said, "Hey, how was work?" Just like any other day. Too normal. Too smooth. I walked into the kitchen, poured myself some water, and my eyes caught something on the counter. A coffee cup I'd never seen before. Not one of ours. Not from a cafe we usually went to. Some cheap, random cup with a logo from a gym across town. That's when my heart started racing. She never went to that gym. I asked casually, "So, did you go for a walk today?" She froze for half a second. Not long, but long enough for me to notice. Then she said, "Yeah, just around the block." But that half-second pause screamed louder than her words. I didn't bring up the photo yet. I just nodded, pretended to believe her, and sat down next to her on the couch. Inside, though, I was boiling. My brain was already screaming, "She's lying. Something's going on." That night, I didn't sleep. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, wondering if the life I thought was easy was already over. By the next morning, I couldn't take it anymore. I wasn't built for this kind of quiet torture. My chest felt heavy, like I'd swallowed a brick. So before work, while she was still half asleep, I sat on the edge of the bed and asked, "Who's the guy you were with yesterday?" Her eyes snapped open. She blinked fast, like her brain was scrambling for a believable answer. "What guy?" she said too quickly. I showed her the screenshot Ben had sent me. There it was, her and the stranger, holding hands in broad daylight. No excuses left. Her face went pale, then red, then back to pale. She tried to laugh it off. "Oh my God, you're being ridiculous. He's just a friend. We were talking and friends don't hold hands like that." I cut in. My voice was calmer than I expected. Almost cold. That's when she snapped. "So what if I did? You've been so focused on work lately. I needed someone to talk to. Someone who makes me feel alive." That word, alive, hit me like a punch to the chest. Was I dead to her? Just background noise in my own house. I didn't yell. I just got up, grabbed my keys, and walked out. I couldn't sit there pretending everything was fine while she justified holding hands with someone else like it was nothing. That was the first time I realized my easy life wasn't just cracking, it was shattering. Work that day was a blur. I sat at my desk, staring at spreadsheets, but nothing registered. Every time I tried to focus, her words replayed in my head. I needed someone to make me feel alive. By lunch, I couldn't take it. I walked out of the office and sat in my car, just breathing hard. My phone buzzed, 3 missed calls from her, and a text that said, "We need to talk. Please come home." I didn't answer. Instead, I scrolled back through her photos, her posts, even old comments. And that's when I noticed something I'd never paid attention to before. The same guy had been liking everything for months. Not just photos, but the little stuff, her posts about being tired, her random selfies, even her food pics. And buried in the comments was one that made my stomach flip. Wish I was there instead of him. She hadn't replied publicly, but she hadn't deleted it either. That silence, it spoke volumes. I sat there, phone in hand, realizing this wasn't some spur-of-the-moment walk. This had been brewing behind my back for a while. That was the moment anger started to shift into something heavier. Not just betrayal, but humiliation. Like I'd been the last one to see what was obvious to everyone else. When I finally drove home that evening, I wasn't sure if I was going back to my girlfriend or to a stranger. When I walked through the door that evening, the apartment felt different. Not physically, but in the air. You know that heavy silence when two people both know something's broken, but no one wants to say it yet? That was hanging between us. She was at the table, pretending to scroll her phone. I could see her leg bouncing under the chair. Nervous. I set my keys down and said flatly, "So, you wanted to talk?" She sighed, put her phone face down, and whispered, "I didn't mean for you to find out like this." That sentence gutted me. Not, "There's nothing to find out." Not, "It's a misunderstanding." But, "I didn't mean for you to find out." I just stood there. My throat went dry, but I managed to say, "So it's true then." She nodded slowly. And then, like ripping off a Band-Aid, she said it. "I've been seeing him for a couple months. I didn't want to hurt you, but it just happened." Those words, "it just happened," made my blood boil. Like love is some accident, like she tripped and fell into his arms. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw something. But instead, I just asked, was it worth it? Throwing us away for him? She didn't answer. She just cried into her hands. And in that moment, standing there in my own apartment, I felt like a guest in a life that wasn't mine anymore. I didn't storm out right away. I just sat down on the edge of the couch, staring at the floor while she cried. My body felt numb, like I'd been hit by a truck but couldn't feel the pain yet. The silence dragged on until I finally asked, "Did you sleep with him?" My voice cracked when I said it. She froze. Didn't answer at first. Then she gave the tiniest nod. That was it. The knife that twisted everything inside me. My stomach turned, and I actually had to cover my mouth for a second because I thought I was going to be sick. I stood up, grabbed my jacket, and told her, "I can't even look at you right now." I left, walked straight out the door with no plan, no destination. I just needed air. I ended up at a 24-hour diner across town, sitting in a booth with a coffee I didn't even drink. The waitress probably thought I was crazy, just staring into space for an hour. The anger was there, boiling under my skin, but mostly it was shock. Shock that the girl I'd trusted with everything had been living a double life right under my nose. And the worst part? I kept replaying every smile, every "I love you," wondering which ones were lies. By the time I dragged myself back home at 3 a.m., I already knew my easy life was gone. Forever. The next morning, the apartment felt like a war zone after the bombs had already gone off. No yelling, no chaos, just ruins. She was sitting at the kitchen table, red-eyed, clutching a mug of coffee like it was a lifeline. I hadn't slept. I'd been pacing the living room all night, running through every possible outcome in my head. Finally, I broke the silence. "What now?" She looked up, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know. I didn't want it to go this far." That line nearly made me laugh. Didn't want it to go this far? She made choices, text by text, meet up by meet up, kiss by kiss. It didn't just happen. I told her straight. I can't live like this. I don't trust you anymore. I don't even recognize you. She started crying again, saying she'd end things with him, that she wanted to work it out. But the words felt empty, like reading from a script she didn't believe in. And here's where the first unexpected twist hit me. As she begged me to stay, her phone buzzed on the table. The screen lit up with his name. She froze. I froze. Neither of us moved. That buzzing sound, over and over again, was like a hammer pounding the coffin of our relationship shut. The phone buzzed again. Same name. Same guy. I don't know what came over me, but I reached across the table and picked it up before she could stop me. Her eyes went wide, like she'd just seen a ghost. Hello, I said, voice flat. There was silence for a beat, then a man's voice. Is this her boyfriend? My chest tightened. Not anymore, I snapped. Who the hell are you? He hesitated, then chuckled. He actually chuckled, and said, Guess she didn't tell you everything. I swear, my blood turned to fire in that second. I wanted to drive to wherever he was and break something. Him, preferably. But instead, I just gripped the phone so hard my hand shook. Listen, I said, you don't call this number again. You've already done enough damage. Then I hung up and tossed the phone onto the table. She burst into tears again, begging me not to leave, saying he didn't mean anything. But that laugh, that smug tone in his voice, it told me he meant everything. In that moment, I realized this wasn't just about betrayal. It was about disrespect. She let another man treat me like a fool, and worse, she let it happen in broad daylight. I grabbed my jacket again. This time, I didn't say a word as I walked out. I just knew if I stayed in that apartment 1 second longer, I'd lose whatever control I had left. I crashed at my buddy Mark's place that night. He's the kind of friend who doesn't ask a million questions, just tossed me a spare blanket and let me sit in silence until I was ready to talk. Around 2 a.m., I finally told him everything. He listened, shook his head, and said the thing I didn't want to hear but needed to. Man, you gotta let her go. She made her choice. Now you gotta make yours. The next day, I took off work. My boss wasn't happy, but I didn't care. My whole life felt like it had been lit on fire. Spreadsheets and deadlines didn't mean a damn thing compared to that. I spent the morning walking around the city, just thinking. I kept asking myself, do I confront the guy? Do I try to fix things? Or do I just walk away completely? And then, like fate wanted to slap me again, I got my answer. I ducked into a coffee shop to get my head straight. And who do I see sitting there in the corner? Him. The guy. The smug bastard from the phone. He was laughing with a coworker, sipping his latte like he hadn't just blown up someone else's life. My heart started pounding. Every instinct screamed at me to march over there, flip the table, and demand answers. But another part of me whispered, don't give him that power. He already took enough from you. So I stood there, frozen, trying to decide if I was about to cause a scene or finally walk away. The next few weeks were, weirdly peaceful. Not easy, peaceful. I started focusing on work again, slowly, without letting it consume me. I reconnected with friends I'd been neglecting. Even went back to the gym, just to remind myself that my body and mind still belonged to me. But the emotional fallout didn't disappear overnight. I'd catch myself thinking about her, how she smiled, how I trusted her, how easily she broke that trust. Some nights, I'd wake up sweating, heart racing, only to realize it was just a memory. Then came the small, unexpected victories. I stayed late at work and got praised for a project I almost wanted to quit. I laughed with friends over dumb jokes, genuinely laughed, for the first time in months. I even started looking at apartments. Maybe a fresh start somewhere that wasn't filled with memories of betrayal. One afternoon, I got a text from her. Just a simple, I'm sorry. For a second, I felt that old anger flare up. But then I realized something I hadn't felt in a long time. Calm. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. The apology meant nothing if the trust was gone, and my life wasn't waiting for her anymore. That's when it hit me. Rebuilding myself wasn't about forgetting her or hating her. It was about choosing me every day. Life started feeling lighter. Not perfect, but lighter. I'd been surprised by how resilient I actually was. I even started noticing small things I'd taken for granted. Morning coffee without arguments, quiet evenings where I could read without tension, laughter that came naturally instead of forced. Then, out of nowhere, came another shock. I ran into her at a mutual friend's birthday party. I froze for a second, caught her gaze, and for a moment, the old memories tried to pull me back. But instead of confrontation or drama, she just gave me a small nod. No explanations. No apologies. Just a nod. And I realized something important. I didn't need her closure anymore. The closure I wanted, the real closure, had already come from me deciding to move on. That night, as I walked home alone, I smiled. Not the fake smile I'd put on for her or anyone else. The real one, the kind that comes from knowing you survived something brutal and came out stronger. It hit me then. Betrayal hurts, yes. But it also teaches you what you're made of if you let it. A few weeks later, I made a decision that felt huge at the time, but also inevitable. I moved. Not across the country or anything dramatic, just far enough to feel like my own space again. New apartment, new routines, a chance to breathe without ghosts of the past lingering in every corner. I also started setting boundaries at work and in friendships. I learned to say no when something didn't feel right and to prioritize my mental health over appearances. It wasn't easy. Old habits die hard, but every small choice reminded me that I was building a life that was truly mine. And the strangest part? I found joy again. Not the distracted, easy-living joy I had before, but a deeper, earned kind of happiness. Coffee tastes better when you can drink it in peace. Conversations feel lighter when you don't carry betrayal in your pocket. And laughter, real, unforced laughter, feels like a victory every time. Most importantly, I realized I wasn't defined by her choices or his smugness. I was defined by how I responded, by what I decided to do with the pieces left behind. Looking back, I can see it all with a kind of clarity that wasn't possible in the moment. Betrayal hits like a tidal wave. You can't stop it, you can't control it, and for a while, it feels like it will drown you. But eventually, you realize you can swim. You can even float, and then you can swim again. Here's what I learned. Trust is precious, but your self-respect is more important. Don't waste your energy begging for it back from someone who chose to betray you. Anger and pain are natural, but don't let them control you. I almost lost myself chasing revenge, and it wouldn't have healed anything. Rebuilding takes time, but every small step counts. Friendships, work, hobbies, simple routines. They're the bricks of a life you can be proud of again. Closure comes from within. You don't need apologies or explanations to move forward. The real power is in deciding to walk away and live for yourself. I won't lie, sometimes I still think about her or that other guy. But those thoughts don't have the same sting anymore. They're just reminders of what I survived. And honestly, life isn't easy like it used to feel. It's better. Hard, yes, but honest. I don't take it for granted anymore. I fight for it every day. So, if you're out there feeling betrayed, broken, or lost, it does get better. You just have to decide that your story isn't over yet, and that the next chapters are yours to write.